First of all, Doug, let me tell you, when you go recall, you get nothing but first-class memories.
A serious science fiction meditation on the difference between reality and dreams. Psych, it's a film about cool special effects and lots of violence. That also flirts with the idea that everything you see is not actually happening. Or is it? But yeah, no it is. Or is it?
Get your ass to Mars.
Total Recall.
First time on Mars?
Yes. Well, actually, no. Well, sort of.
Total Recall is a 1990 science fiction action movie from director Paul Verhoeven, where a fella on Earth has dreams of Mars that turn into a nightmare. I've had dreams like that. It just turns out I left a chocolate bar in the car on a hot day.
But it had something to do with Mars.
Mars? You've never even been to Mars.
Total Recall was an R-rated film with a lot of violence and salty language, so if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, maybe try our reviews of something less sweary or violent, like, I don't know, The Sopranos or Goodfellas.
You know how much I hate this fucking planet.
But if you like violence... Total Recall is also a movie that improves on subsequent viewings. It's 2084. Douglas Quaid is a construction worker on Earth who's been having dreams about a life on Mars, except he's never actually been to Mars, and that's something he wants to rectify.
Move to Mars.
His wife, Laurie, counsels him against moving to Mars for several reasons, not least of which is the strife caused by an ongoing rebellion against its brutal governor, Cohagen. Also, Laurie has a thing on, you know, that thing. And cancelling at this stage and rescheduling would just be such a hassle. Also, she just doesn't want to go.
Call recall for the memory of a lifetime.
Plan B for Quaid, go to Recall, where instead of actually going to Mars, you get the memory of a Mars vacation at a fraction of the cost. There are no visas, no passports, and no having to deal with a floating sick bag on a zero-G interplanetary flight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be switching on the artificial gravity.
No, wait. He selects a package where he'll remember having spent 2 weeks on Mars as a secret agent. However, something goes wrong during the implantation procedure, and things kick off.
He's just acting out the secret agent portion of his ego trip.
We haven't implanted it yet.
Quaid's buddy at work, Harry, and some goons try to kill Quaid, and then so does his wife, Laurie. So on balance, Doug's not really having a very good day, is he?
Bullshit.
Meanwhile, there's Richter and Helm and some other faceless goons who are also trying to kill Doug. What the hell is this, National Kill Doug Day? Apparently that's exactly what it is. Doug gets a recording of himself advising Quaid, and I'm paraphrasing here, to travel to Mars with the maximum of alacrity. Or as the movie puts it,
Get your ass to Mars.
look, maybe I'm biased, but I think my way sounds just a bit better. On Mars, Governor Cohagen sees his job simply.
As long as the turbinium keeps flowing, I can do anything I want.
Once on Mars, Quaid's immaculate disguise doesn't go so well, and he finds himself chased by more of Cohagen's goons.
Get ready for a surprise.
He's left himself a trail of clues that will lead to Venusville, the poorer parts of Mars, where poor conditions and compromised air filtering have led to mutants with psychic abilities and a flourishing resistance movement.
Well, what do the rebels want?
More money, more freedom, more air.
Quaid finally meets the woman from his dreams, Melina, who's clearly got a history with Quaid, except he doesn't remember any of it. Quaid has a visitor from Recall telling him that he's actually back on Earth in Recall's office where something's been going wrong with his procedure.
But in the end, back on Earth, you'll be lobotomized.
Laurie's there to help convince him that none of this is real.
After all, we're married.
Consider that a divorce.
What a bitch.
Melina takes Quaid to meet the rebel leader, Quarto.
Open your mind.
But then they're betrayed by the taxi driver, Benny. So then the plot is explained.
It's the best mindfuck yet.
Quaid is really Cohagen's associate, Hauser, who's had his mind wiped so they could get past the psychic mutants to be close enough to kill Quarto.
I'm having a party tonight. Why don't you and Melina drop by? Remind him, Doc?
Sure. See you at the party.
Before Hauser's personality can be restored, Quaid and Melina escape, and then there's a final showdown which sees Quaid activate the alien reactor that will give Mars a breathable atmosphere.
You are not you. You're me. No shit.
The plot spends some time wanting there to be some ambiguity as to what's actually going on in Quaid's head, but really it is all explained fairly clearly. It just makes a lot more sense if you've seen the movie before.
What if this is a dream?
Well, then kiss me quick before you wake up.
So it is a very good film for the genre, a big big budget science fiction action film that wasn't turned into a franchise, where it's got all the dumb action you want papering over a more considered science fiction plot than is usual. It's more than just moving a MacGuffin around, trying to find a MacGuffin or stopping the MacGuffin from falling into the wrong hands. However, at times, that's exactly what it feels like whenever we stop to have another violent shootout. I mean, that part's accurate. I've been in several violent shootouts while looking for or protecting various microfilms, plans, notebooks, tapes, discs, flash drives, all of which I keep in my MacGuffin drawer.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Total Recall's MacGuffin is more metaphorical. It's about Quaid's reality and how many times the scriptwriters can work the word fuck into a major blockbuster.
Fuck you, you asshole!
In the mid-60s, Philip K. Dick had published a short story, We Can Remember It For You, Wholesale, the story of which is basically the same as the first part of this movie, just without the main character being somebody who could be the understudy for a steamroller.
Sorry, Quaid. Your whole life is just a dream.
In the mid-70s, Ronald Shusett and Dan O'Bannon began creating a version of the story which greatly expanded the plot of the short story by transporting asses to the fourth planet in the solar system and adding in many of the plots and ideas that would appear in the eventual film. However, it was always going to be expensive and, like trying to play Street Fighter II, was impossible to do in the 1970s.
I'll blow this place up and be home in time for cornflakes.
And so the pair moved on to another idea which would eventually become Alien. After that film's success, Shusett tried to get Total Recall mounted, but the budget battles saw the project stall again and again. In the early 1980s, Uber producer Dino De Laurentiis acquired the rights to the project with the idea that David Cronenberg direct it. Cronenberg would eventually leave the project after disagreements with Shusett, though some of his suggestions would remain. De Laurentiis wanted to keep the budget low, and for a time wanted to avoid getting any asses to Mars in order to cut the film's projected budget.
Well, don't worry, things hardly ever fuck up around here.
Various directors and stars were attached to the project, and then they went. Production was finally about to begin in Australia in 1988, with Bruce Beresford directing and Patrick Swayze starring, before De Laurentiis' company collapsed.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Hauser.
Look who's talking.
Arnold Schwarzenegger had known about Total Recall for a while, but while De Laurentiis was involved, Arnold had about as much chance of starring in a movie called Total Recall as a Fudge Sundae has of seeing dawn. With De Laurentiis out of the picture, Schwarzenegger sprung into action, convincing Carolco to snap up the rights for him to star in the film.
In an hour, he could have Total Recall.
I have to tell you, 90% of the research for this video was listening to videos with Mario Casar and Andrew Weiner to hear them say the company name out loud. Otherwise, this video would be full of Carolco this and Carolco that. It's that little bit of extra effort that separates this channel from others. Farjanija also loved Robocop and wanted to work with the film's director Paul Verhoeven. Sorry, that should be Schwarzenegger also loved Robocop and wanted to work with that film's director Paul Verhoeven. Total Recall was back, with the film to be made in Mexico City's Churubusco Studios, which had already been home to big films like David Lynch's Dune and Timothy Dalton's second outing at James Bond, License to Kill.
They erased your identity and implanted a new one.
By the time shooting commenced, there'd been something like 40 drafts of the script, with the main problem being that nobody could agree on how to end the movie. Was the whole thing in Quaid's mind? Was Mars going to get a breathable atmosphere? More to the point, after eating a full English breakfast, was my car ever going to get a breathable atmosphere? The extensive special effects were often cited as the reason why the film would take so long before it was finally made, and here they are just absolutely gorgeous. Often the effects will just look like effects, but they're still lovely and ambitious. This is one of the last really large-scale effects-heavy films made before computers started to take over image compositing, though there is one computer-generated effect in it, the X-ray scanner. Such was the nature of optical film compositing that there's often a very large difference in picture quality when going between an effect shot and a non-effect shot. There are some very impressive shots involving live action and multiple scales of model in one composited shot of, say, the Martian landscape, or moving shots with screens added in post-production, as well as Robotine's puppets. They're most obvious with something like Quato or Quaid's disguise when he arrived on Mars, but there are also various shots of people about to explode in the Martian atmosphere, or Quaid pulling out a tracking implant. They add a level of grotesque texture that was the sort of thing that Paul Verhoeven seemed to really love. Total Recall's effects, even when they're screaming out special effects in large block letters, just have this warm charm to them. Total Recall is also brutal. people just don't fall over dead or clutch their chest or whatever. They have giant bloody wounds. Bullets are flying all over the place, with random people on the streets catching strays. There's not just a little bit of violence, but there's a lot of violence, almost to the point where there's possibly just too much, even for a film shot at the tail end of the 1980s, where angry, violent action films were literally all the rage.
See you at the party, Richter!
Jerry Goldsmith was brought on board to provide a score, and it's a full-on epic orchestral score with one of his more memorable offerings, mixing the orchestra with synthesizers. And Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, we've talked about him so much that we'll just pair random alliterative nouns and adjectives in a sentence and hope that they magically make some sort of sense. You know, sizable star, hefty headliner, the abundant Austrian. He gets a lot of one-liners in Total Recall, though I haven't worked out whether it's a little bit cruel to suggest one line was his limit or whether it was the limit of comprehension of the typical action movie audience member.
Come on, Verhoeven, you got what you want. Give these people air.
Rachel Ticotin is tough resistance fighter Melina, who ends up with the broad bodybuilder.
She's gonna be Hauser's babe.
I'll bust his balls.
While not yet a megastar, Sharon Stone also takes no shit from her character's substantial spouse.
I wouldn't want a guy like Quaid porking my old lady.
You saying she likes it?
No, I'm sure she hated every minute of it.
In the film, Laurie's actually married to Richter, who has his own reasons for wanting to kill the large lead. Michael Ironside always brings an intensity to his roles, where it would just be easy for him to shamelessly overact, but not here.
Do you think you could play along?
Yes, sir.
Because otherwise I'll erase your ass.
Ronny Cox played the main villain in Verhoeven's RoboCop, and as Verhoeven brings less charm and more smarm in trying not to kill the film's spacious superstar. Oh, and there are small roles from future TV stars Robert Picardo, Mark Alimo, and Dean Norris.
If I'm not me, who the hell am I?
Some drafts of Total Recall played up the idea that perhaps most of the film was in fact Quaid hallucinating, with a twist ending akin to something like Terry Gilliam's Brazil. But that wasn't going to fly in a $60+ million film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. The plot is explained in the film, but that didn't stop some of the audience from wondering whether parts or all of it were in fact a dream. Subsequent viewings, to me at least, reinforced the idea that what we saw on screen happened, but it's easy to miss in amongst all of the bullets flying about the place. Despite its long gestation and the usual problems during shooting, Total Recall was a big moneymaker that year. And I just have to repeat the fact that I just think it's a film that gets better with repeated viewings, even if the violence almost reaches cartoon levels in some scenes. I had seen the film in a theatre when it was released, and at the time I just thought it was fine. Not amazing like RoboCop or the following year's Terminator 2, just fine. And throughout the 90s, if you'd have asked me, I would have said Total Recall is in the same ballpark as those two films, though if I was honest then, I would say it's in the bleachers selling hot dogs rather than on second base. Now I would place Total Recall much higher. It's there on the field, streaking. In the late 1990s, a television series, Total Recall 2070, was a short-lived Canadian-German co-production that did not make much of an impact in a crowded market for science fiction television.
You blabbed about Mars! Are you crazy? I don't even know anything about Mars!
In 2012, another Total Recall film was released, and while I am not one of those folks who declares all remakes are automatically terrible, this one is automatically, well, that's maybe something for another day.
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
Total Recall is an Arnie film that combines clever ideas and a bucket of bullets, which are two things that only very rarely play nicely together. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.